Look at this. Aren't these gorgeous? These are chocolate chip cookie brownie double deckers. As you can see on this one, there's a fudgy brownie on the bottom and a chewy chocolate chip cookie on top. These are amazing. These are so, so delicious. I can't wait to try this. So I'm gonna take it over here and cut it in half. You can see you get this and this too. You get a lot of these. So I'm gonna try this guy. Okay, ready? Here we go. Oh my God. The texture is perfect. Brownie's fudgy, chocolate chip cookie, chewy, but nothing is hard. Everything is nice and soft, but not cakey at all. These are fantastic. These would make such a great gift, like holiday gifts for someone. Everybody would love to get these as a gift, or you could make a bigger square of it, heat it up, put some ice cream on it. That would be amazing. But try these. Let me show you how to do it. Okay, so to make these wonderful chocolate chip brownie double deckers, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need butter, and it has to be butter. It cannot be margarine, never margarine. And butter always comes like this with sticks. This is unsalted butter. This is what you want. Okay, so butter. We're also gonna need brown sugar, and that can be light brown sugar, that's what I'm using, or it can be dark brown sugar. We're also gonna need some regular basic sugar. We're also gonna need some all-purpose flour, just basic all-purpose flour. And we're also gonna need some baking soda, not powder, baking soda. We're gonna need some regular salt, 2 eggs, some semi-sweet chocolate chips, and get the real thing. Make sure it's real. If it says chocolatey chips or if it says chocolate flavored chips, that means it's not the real thing. I love Nestle's Toll House, the originals. I think these are the best. Okay, you're also gonna need some cocoa powder. Now, I have Dutch processed cocoa powder, as you can see. This is great, or you could use Hershey's cocoa, that's fine. Any of these work, these are not sweet. Also some vanilla. You're gonna need vanilla, pure vanilla. You'll need some cooking spray. And as far as equipment, you're gonna need a 13 by 9 inch pan. 13 inches by 9 inches pan. Now I'm going to line this with foil and spray it with the spray like I normally do. A couple of other things, I've also preheated the oven to 325, and I moved the oven rack so it's in the middle of the oven. All right, now we'll get started. Okay, so this is what I call next level baking, okay? This is a real challenge for a baker in terms of organization and all that, but if you've been baking for a little while, you should be able to do this just fine. Okay, so the chocolate chip cookie dough and the brownie batter both get made separately. So you're going to need 2 separate saucepans. 1 saucepan to do the chocolate chip cookie dough, 1 saucepan to do the brownie batter. Okay, so what I'm actually gonna start with, just partly, is the chocolate chip cookie dough. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 1.5 sticks of butter, unwrap them, and I'm gonna melt them in this pan. I'm gonna get the butter melted, then I'm gonna whisk in 1 cup of brown sugar. So we'll come back so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so that 1.5 stick of butter has melted. And you don't need to get it to a boil or anything, just so that there's no solid anymore. The butter is now melted. And I've taken the pan off the heat. That's real important, take the pan off the heat. I have 1 cup of packed brown sugar, and you know you've packed it in there right if you get that lovely dome. So I'm gonna get this in here, and I'm gonna whisk it in. Just whisk that in. It's not gonna look like much yet, but that's okay. Now, the reason why I did this part now is because this is gonna need to cool, okay? If you were to keep going with this and have it be hot, all your chocolate chips will melt, and it might even cook the egg. So that's why I did this now. So I'm just gonna move this over to the side, right there. Take a look at what it looks like. Just like that. Okay, that was for the chocolate chip cookie dough. Now I'm gonna switch my focus to the brownie batter, and we'll get back to that. Okay, so now I'm gonna get working on the brownie batter, and this is a brand new pot, different pot, and I have the exact same amount of butter in here as before, 1.5 sticks. And I'm actually gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna melt this butter on the stovetop, and when it's melted, I'm gonna come back over here and I'm gonna make the brownie batter. Okay, so the butter for the brownie batter has now melted, and we're gonna keep going. And by the way, don't just go by my video. Use the recipe that's gonna be online too, on Google Classroom. Use the recipe, it explains everything and it gives you all the amounts and everything. Okay, so we have the melted butter. This is our 3/4 cup of cocoa. So the cocoa goes in there, and we're gonna whisk in that cocoa. If your cocoa has lumps in it, try to really whisk out those lumps so they won't end up in the finished product. Okay, so we're getting all that cocoa in there, and what's gonna come next? Get that nice and smooth. This is 1.5 cups of sugar. It goes in. And this is about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It goes in too. So we're gonna mix that in. Cocoa is very bitter, so you need the sugar to make everything sweet. We want our brownies deeply chocolatey, but we do not want them to be bitter. Okay, so there's sugar in there. Give that a good mix. Okay. So what I'm going to do next thing to do is I'm going to add the eggs. I've got 2 eggs here. Oh, and at the beginning of the video, I told you you would need 2 eggs. It turns out you're going to need 3 eggs. 2 for the brownie batter, 1 for the chocolate chip cookie dough recipe. So make sure you've got 3 eggs grand total, not just 2. Because 2 of the eggs are going to go in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 of the eggs, just 1, and whisk it up. So let me do that. Keep one of these guys behind. There we go. Whisk in that egg. One by one, we're going to put those eggs in there. Okay. And now we're going to add the other egg too. There it is. I always like to crack my eggs into a little bowl before I use them, in case it's a weird egg or I don't want to get any shells into the batter either. Okay. And we're also going to get that vanilla in there. We need 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. So I'm going to grab my vanilla right here. 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. So there's 1 teaspoon of vanilla. If you get a little more vanilla than you need, that's a-okay, because vanilla tastes good. Okay, so there's 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. We're going to add that in there. Keep mixing. See, now this looks like brownie batter. Now we're talking. And the next thing we're going to add is flour, 3/4 cup of flour. Now this really likes to stick in the whisk there, so get that. By the way, I have 2 whisks, which is really nice to have if you like to bake. Okay, so here's my 3/4 cup flour. That's 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4, and it goes. Now you don't want to over mix this part. So I'm going to gently get this flour in here. Just gently. This is called folding, where you kind of scrape the bottom of the bowl, keep turning it over, keep turning it over. So I'll get this completely folded in here, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. All right, so our first level is done. You can see I spread the brownie batter in the bottom of this pan that I lined with foil and sprayed with nonstick spray. And you're gonna really have to try. You're gonna have to work hard to get all this out. It's very thick batter. So look at that. I really got that batter out of there. Do whatever it takes. And spread it evenly here. All right, we're just gonna put that aside. And now I'm gonna finish up the chocolate chip cookie dough. Okay, we've already taken care of our brownie batter, so now we're concentrating on the chocolate chip dough. Okay, so remember this pan? that we melted butter in and then I stirred in brown sugar? Okay. It should be cooled by now. This is super important. Put your hand on the bottom of it. If it's even a little warm to you, it's too warm, let it sit for longer, okay? And I'll show you why in a moment. So, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a little whisk. It's nice and cool now. And I'm gonna add our 1 egg and our teaspoon of vanilla in there. Gonna whisk that in. Come on, egg, there you go. Get that egg in there. Now in this bowl here, what I have is I have 1.5 cups of flour and baking soda and salt. Check the recipe to determine what amounts. Okay, so that's whisked in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch over to a rubber spatula because this is more gentle than a whisk. And I'm gonna add those dry ingredients to this. Okay, and the same way I did with the brownie batter, I'm folding it in there. I don't wanna over mix this. Okay, we'll come back when I've got that done. Okay, so I have the chocolate chip cookie dough ready, except for the chocolate chips. Now, I want you to do a little test for me. Put a chocolate chip in there and just let it sit in there for like 10 seconds. Why are we doing this? Because if your mixture is too warm, it's gonna start to melt that chocolate chip, okay? And if that happens, just take out that one chocolate chip and let it cool some more. If it doesn't melt that chocolate chip, then you can go ahead, let's see how mine is doing. Definitely not melting this guy. So I'm gonna add them all in, 1 cup of chocolate chips. Okay, so I'm gonna incorporate these guys in here. Now, the trickiest part of this whole thing, I would say, is getting this mixture onto here in a flat layer. That's the most challenging thing probably of this whole deal. But you have patience, you can do it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, here's a spoon, and I'm gonna take just kind of blobs of it, and I'm gonna lay it on top of the brownie layer. And I'll come back when I've filled up the whole brownie layer. Okay, so take a look. So I have I dolloped out my chocolate chip cookie dough. Now, if you have a tool like this is called an offset spatula. It's really nice. See the shape of that thing? It's really nice, and it's good for spreading. You have to do this delicately, and it takes a little bit of time. If you don't have an offset spatula, that's okay. You can use a butter knife, you could use a rubber spatula, whatever it takes, but you want to get this mixture all the way spread out on top of the brownie mixture, so you can't see the brownie mixture from looking at it. If you get close to that, that's fine. Okay, it's going to take me a few minutes to work on this because I'm going to be careful and patient, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, it took me a few minutes, but as you can see, I spread all the chocolate chip cookie dough. You can see a little bit of brownies in the corners and the sides, but that's pretty good. So what's going to happen next is this is going to go into the oven that's been preheated to 325, not 350, 325. And the recipe says 35 to 40 minutes, but I'm actually going to set my timer for 33 because remember, you can always add more time, but you can't undo time. And after 33 minutes, I will take a toothpick and I'll stick it in the middle and out. And if I see some tiny little goo of brownie, that's okay. That's actually okay because brownies are best when they're fudgy. All right, we are almost there. I'm going to get this in the oven and I'll come back when I take it out. All right, I just took it out of the oven at 33 minutes. So I'm going to stick a toothpick in there, take it out. Let's see. Just a tiny bit of goo on there. Uh-oh, bad kitty. A little bit of goo on there, that's not too bad, that's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer it onto the rack. Now, you're going to need to, this is going to require patience. You're going to need to let this sit. There goes my other timer. You're going to let this sit until it's completely cooled. Trust me on this. I know it's hard. Go out and take a walk or something. This has to be cooled. I'm thinking it's going to take at least an hour and a half. And when it is, I'll show you how to take it out and cut it up. And oh, I get to try one. I can't wait. All right, so it's been about, almost 3 hours since I took this out of the oven. And as you can see, it looks beautiful. And here's the glory of the foil. Everything just comes out. I don't even need to wash that. So everything's out. So I'm gonna peel the foil away. Always check, make sure no foil gets embedded in there. You don't want to be eating foil. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I'm going to make this a clean break here. A little bit of a break, but we're going to put it back together. Okay, so now is the fun part. You get to cut it up. Let's see here. I'm going to go here. That felt good. Nice cut there. Okay. And I make these kind of on the small side since in a single bite you're getting a chocolate chip cookie and a brownie, but look at that. Look at that. Chocolate chip cookie on top, brownie on the bottom. These are fantastic. This is a little bit of work. That's why I call it next level baking. But if you follow the steps, take your time, you will really be rewarded with something truly, truly fantastic. And I hope you try this at home.